pretty excited. I just finished visiting a friend for a couple days in 100 Mile House area. And now I am heading to go see another friend for another couple days up in the Quesnel area. And then I'll be heading on to my big adventure. But my adventure for that hasn't gone as planned. But of course, follow along and you'll find out what's actually happening and what I'm doing. But in this video, I am going to be sharing the ways that I keep warm because, my gosh, I woke up this morning, I think it was -6, and I know where I'm going is just getting colder. So yeah, that is what we are going to be talking about over the next couple days. And amongst all that, we'll also be enjoying all the beautiful views. The best way to keep warm in winter van life would be a diesel heater. But maybe you're in a situation like myself where you can't have one. For me, it's my financing agreement. It won't allow me to make modifications to my van while I'm still financing it. So I cannot drill the hole that is needed for a diesel heater. And the other thing is, there is no room in my van for anything. Every little nook and cranny is full. So I came up with alternative ways to keep warm. Now, one of them is idling my vehicle in the morning. And I will only do this on those cold mornings when I need to defrost the windshield instead of getting out there and scraping the ice. And I'll utilize that heat to warm up my living space, because I already have to take my divider down to do so. Now, I don't feel too bad about it, even though it is increasing my gas mileage. I am charging my Jackery at the same time, and I'll also utilize the vents and allow that heat to warm up my clothing before I get changed into them for the day. Now, I also do this with my massage sheets when I'm going to clients' places. If I remember, throw them up on the dash when I'm heading to their place, so when I get there, they're warm, because they're cold staying in this van. And I've also started doing my jammies. So when I'm going to be driving to my place to park for the night, just throw the jammies up there and warm them up, so when you transition to night clothes, they're warm. Now, usually I am heading somewhere, and more than likely it's a shower, right? So I utilize aquatic centers at the pools. When I go, I usually tell them that I'm having a shower. And I've been amazed with a few places, they actually have shower prices, so you don't have to pay the full price. But what if you do have to pay the full price? Well, why not take advantage of the fact that they have saunas and hot tubs and utilize that heat for a little bit? Or you can be lucky like me and have your friend run you a bath. Now, maybe you have a gym membership. And I know not everybody who has gym memberships actually utilizes the gym, but maybe this is an opportunity to do so. Now, after that, I may decide to go somewhere and have a warm drink. Or head to the library, do some editing, and charge up my Jackery, or do some reading, something like that. You know, usually there for a little while. It's a warm space. Going out with a friend for a meal. If they're a really good friend, you're more than likely going to hang out with them for a good hour and a half or so, right? Laughing away. And other times, I'm just going for long drives so I can keep that heater on. But I'm always going somewhere. So I'm really big about layering, because if you get too hot, you can take the layers off, right? And one of the things in particular that I thoroughly enjoy is turtlenecks. Not only does it keep your neck nice and warm, you can bring it up and hide your double chin if you have one like me, or keep yourself even warmer and bring it on straight up. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I favor the use of the good old turtleneck. And I have to say, what I live in for pretty much the whole entire winter is hoodies. I love my hoodies. And for a few reasons. Well, maybe just a couple. That is pockets, because I always use more pockets. And the other would be for head warmth. They do say a warm head keeps a warm body. And when I say I live in them, I literally mean that. I even wear hoodies to bed at night just because it keeps the head warm. And I must go check out my friend's store. It's a work in progress. It is an old miners union building. And she'll be opening her store called Earth Vibrations in May of 2026. And then, of course, I always got my nice knee-high socks to keep me warm. I also like to double up on my socks as well. I also find like knitted cardigans, they keep you nice and warm. As well as wool shawls. If you're still too cold, then start putting on some insulated layers. Like for instance, my toque is insulated as well as my gloves. I also have insulated socks, leggings, and undershirts as well. Also go for a walk too. That'll warm you up. You get yourself a kitty like this to keep you warm. Or even a dog. I even got Bubba's autograph. And they even have rechargeable heated clothing. So like, yeah, socks, gloves, pants, shirts, jackets, vests. Like, wow, we have really come a long way in the way we heat our bodies. I personally do not own any of that type of stuff because I already have enough devices and stuff to charge up. I don't need anything extra. But I will utilize like these foot warmers, hand warmers. They last about 6 hours, fairly inexpensive. Get them at dollar stores, and yeah, they seem to do a little bit of the trick anyways. You can even tuck them in your inside pockets in your jacket. That keeps you toasty for sure. So the next thing that I'm going to suggest is not something that everybody would feel comfortable doing, and that is completely up to you, because I felt that very same way when I first started out doing van life. So the first 2 winters, I actually cooked off the back of the van here outside, and after having really cold fingertips, so I gotta figure out a way that I could cook inside, and yeah, I've been doing that ever since. So yeah, I am going to get things set up. Of course, you want to be safe about this, so make sure your space is cleared. And yes, I have more than enough space. It just may not show on the camera. If I am cooking dinner, I will open up the window. I do recommend ventilating for long periods. But if I'm just going to be heating up my space for a couple moments, I don't worry about that so much. So, turn it on, and well, I can feel the heat up here, but none of that heat's really coming back at me at all. So, just up above and over, I have a fan. And I turned that on, and it's facing me. Guess what? That's now bringing that hot air straight at me. Now, I find using that fan, I really only need to have the stove on for like a minute. It does not take long at all. You trust me, you'll feel a difference. There's no doubt about that. I will also never lay down when I have my butane stove on, like never. That is the rule, always staying up. And if you really do feel uncomfortable, then get a carbon monoxide detector, and yeah, that'll go off if there's an issue. But yeah, just if you're going to do it for long periods, really do open up something and ventilate. So I will also utilize pots and pans and put that on the heat and warm them up. And then I can use them for under my feet and, wrap a blanket around. And, that just helps keep the body warm. And I do have hot water bottles, but I do not like to really use them. Even though boiling hot water does heat up your space as well, it does have a lot of condensation to it, and you already have a wet heat, so it's creating condensation too by using the butane. So yeah, that is something that I have used in the past but don't anymore. And with those pots and pans, I guess another thing you can do too is lay them on your blanket and warm up your bed before you lay down. And yeah, speaking of bed, let me show you what I use for blankets and such. I have two blankets here. This bottom one is my electric blanket. That is what I lay on. And then the top one is a -14, which I think is 7 Fahrenheit, sleeping bag. So this sleeping bag is actually my new one. My old one is 5 years old. It is rated -18. And I noticed it wasn't keeping me as warm as it once did. So I looked into it to find out if sleeping bags lose their heating capabilities after any length of time. And what I had learned was, yes, they do. And it all really depends on your usage and how much you wash it. And what happens is it loses the loft, they call it, which is the thickness and fluffiness that keeps you nice and warm. And this sleeping bag I've already used into -7, and yep, not an issue. And then I have my electric blanket, and I lay on top of that. I haven't even used it yet, but we're not even at winter quite yet either, so the time will come. But I run it for about 20 minutes before I get into bed so I can get into a warm bed, and then I run it for about an hour to 2. And then let it turn off, because at that point I'm really nice and toasty in my cocoon, and it'll keep me that way up until morning again. So yeah, don't have to use the electric blanket for very long when you have a good sleeping bag as well. I'm going to run my electric blanket for an hour and tell you how much wattage it uses, and we'll see how much it drains the battery. So yeah, to get an idea on that, I'm going to do it with a Blue Eddy. All right, turn the Jackery on. We are at 99%. Turn the AC on, and now we will turn on the electric blanket. And the timer will be for 1 hour. Down, down, down. There we go. And we will put it on level 3, which is normally what I have it on. So it's about 45 minutes in. It draws about 109 just to keep the temperature up. But other than that, it sits at 0 for a good minute, and then it just does a few seconds. That's it, of heating once it's there. So yeah, 15 more minutes and we'll see what the percentage is down. 1 hour later, we are at 93%. So it only drew off 6% of my battery. And the bed, yes, let's talk about the bed. When I first started van life, I slept on the floor. And then I had insulation, which was Reflectex, and then my mattress. And I didn't mind living that way, and I never noticed there was really a difference because I didn't know any different. The issue I had was my knees. That's why I wanted to raise a bed. But I also had noticed too that I was getting a mold, because there was no ventilation. And of course, Reflectex is like a plastic, so plastic traps in moisture, and well, anyways, it wasn't necessarily the smartest thing on my part, but hey, lessons learned, right? So my bed is raised now, and I do notice a huge difference from sleeping on the floor versus being raised up. And I have slots in between, not slots, slits, so there's ventilation. So I don't worry about molding anymore at all either. And on the floor, I have a nice thick wool rug, so that helps stopping the draft from coming up. And I really kind of be a little bit mindful of where I park. I will do my best to avoid parking on pavement because pavement is a whole lot colder than what a gravel ground is. So if I can find parking with gravel, that's where I would prefer to be. But hey, beggars cannot be choosers when it comes to finding free places to stay, right? And my living space, that's right. I have it enclosed with wool blankets. Those are kind of like my curtains. I have divided it from front to back because I don't utilize my front at all when I'm living back here. And I have Reflectex on the windows, and that really does stop the draft from coming in through the glass. What else can I tell you about keeping warm? I do have one more thing to suggest, and that is if you can travel, go somewhere warm. And a lot of people in Canada choose Vancouver Island. I personally don't, and we'll save that for another video. If you have any more suggestions to offer in regards to ways to keep warm, please leave them in the comments down below. If you would like to follow my adventures, please do subscribe. It is free. Until next time, bye-bye.